Thanks for listening and subscribing to Learning More. It's Russ with you. I am loving this season of Learning More because there's so much cool stuff that I get to learn this year. Stuff that I've wanted to learn since the beginning, and I don't know why I didn't do those shows. I probably should have. It's like I'm in control of this thing. I could have done it, but there's so much to learn about, and every week we're learning something new and exciting. This year, for this new season, I've picked some of those really cool topics that early on I wrote on a list and I just never got to them. So it's so cool to get to these. If you haven't listened to the previous episodes that I've released over the last couple of weeks, be sure to go check those out because there's some fun stuff in there. Last week, when we were talking about the law of attraction and pulling things in, I had so much conversation in my house after that show ran. First of all, my wife actually listened to it. That was pretty exciting. There's a first time for everything. It's we had so much conversation about it. So hopefully the same thing's happening in your household where these are causing conversation. You guys are chatting about it. And, these are topics that generally where do you hear about these things, right? This is the podcast to come to. So thank you for continuing to listen. Be sure to hit that subscribe button because today we've got another great one. And this one is about numerology. So we're going to learn more about numbers. Now, not like the math stuff. We're not going to do any, I don't think we're going to do any algebra. I'll have to ask my guest, but I don't think we're going to do any math today. But numerology is the study of numbers and how they impact our lives. It's based on the idea that numbers have inherent meanings and vibrations that can reveal our personality traits, strengths, weaknesses, and even our life path. I'm joined by Patricia Schermerhorn, a professional numerologist who is actually right down the street from me. So Patricia, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
As I said, we should have just done this over coffee. That would have been fun to actually do a live version of the show here. But I know, right? We're back to being able to be around other people. It's nice to take those opportunities when we can, right?
I missed it.
Yeah, exactly.
I love dinner parties.
Yeah, right. It's it's so nice to get back to that stuff again. So it's really cool. Okay, so let's talk numbers. First of all, the day that the show is airing, the day that it's released, is actually an interesting numerical sequence: 3-23-23. So maybe we should get into that a little later too, and or if you want to just jump right in. But before we do anything, I do want to kind of get to know you a little bit. So how did you get into numerology?
Everything's kind of odd when I look back at it now, but I just happened to be cruising around on my laptop, and I looked down and. Oh, there wasn't a laptop, it was a computer at the time. I looked down and I went back up, and on the screen was a gentleman's face. That's all, just this big face. Mm-hmm. And I clicked on it. It said, Michael Gazette, the world's best known numerologist. So I was so moved by his picture that I decided to call him, and we started talking about numerology. And I said, I just would love to meet you and get to know this subject more. And that's how I got started. He was the numerologist for Frank Sinatra. Oh, wow. And he's just, he used to be an actor, but he really, when you received a reading from him, it was like somebody was talking to the deepest part of your soul. It was so beautiful. Wow. And that's how numbers should be. They reveal the truth that sets you free.
So you basically, you found your calling with this. You found something that you were really interested in and something that you wanted to continue your education on and to start teaching other people about this.
It came easily to me how to do it, but because numerology is very easy to learn. But what's difficult is it's like the guitar. You can learn the guitar very easily, but it takes a lot to master it, to understand how to translate it. And connect all the dots to tell someone's story, because it really is about someone's story.
Right.
Their life story.
Right. Now,
all their challenges.
Most of the classes that I've taken, right, it all settles down onto math. And I said, we're not going to cover too much algebra in here. Don't worry. But it all comes down to math. So really, are you kind of saying it all really just comes down to numbers, all of life?
everything's revealed in numbers. Numbers don't lie. That's why. It's just when you study it, then you won't doubt it because it just makes so much common sense. It's physics. It's a science.
So tell us
And when you
how,
study
like, how have you seen this? Maybe, share some examples of how numerology is played in your life or, your client's life, people that you've advised. How has it played into your life? Just maybe a couple of examples.
it. Well, the readings that I've done, I'm not all of them. You're not going to hit that kind of home run or miracle, but I've had a few that made it all worthwhile. And one was a man who was an alcoholic, and I gave him a reading and showed him where his challenges are and why he was going down the rabbit hole, and then showed him another way through his numbers. And then I ran into him at a store, and he said, "You changed my life,
Oh,
and
nice.
everything you said. I quit drinking. I've got this new job." He just seems so alive. I walked away feeling numerology does work.
You gave him a path.
So,
You gave him
a
a
direction,
direction.
maybe
Yeah.
a little
Yeah.
direction.
That's great. We sort of have to get into the misconceptions about this and the misbeliefs about
Okay.
numerology. So maybe we could talk a little about that just right up front to get it out of the way. Like, what do you see, like, when you're like, maybe somebody's a skeptic on this? Like, what, speak to those people a little bit. Like, how do you
Mhm.
show that this actually has truth in it?
Yeah. Well, you were talking about the law of attraction.
Hmm.
I assume that came from Abraham, and it's a lot like that. I'll look at why this person sitting across from me is doubting this, and I simply say, "Don't judge it until you've studied it. Then we could have a real conversation." But if you don't know much about it and you make a judgment about it, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Right. Well, and that's
That's
one
how.
of the cool things about this show, and I'm not getting
Yeah.
into, plugging the show thing, but I get to learn about all these cool things each week. And I,
Mhm. Yeah.
get to dabble in them and, for a little bit. Like we're only getting 30, 40 minutes of this, but it's like it's really cool to dig in a little bit deeper on this stuff. And
Yeah.
what I always like to leave myself with and like listeners with is some like way of utilizing this. So let's talk about like numerology and maybe just decision making. Like how can you use numerology to make a decision? And I'm being very generic on the decision. I'll let you choose big or small.
Well, it's like, you don't live your life by numerology. I don't, you know, these types of sciences are here to help us be better masters at the helm. It's not to run our lives on it. But if I'm like, I'll use myself as an example, I'm in a 7 year. I know uh, my answers will come through meditation and being quiet because seven is a very spiritual number and it reveals the unseen and the unknown. So it's important in a 7 year to take long walks in nature or by the ocean and just dial into what your soul is saying to you about anything before you make a decision. So that's what I've been trying to do this year so far. And it's interesting to note that the universe, you are in a seven, a universal year, and everyone else is. So this will be a very deep, revealing year for many.
So, okay,
And
well, we're talking 2023 here. What about
yeah,
we sort of alluded to 2020. Was there something in that number because it's a repeating number? Is there something there that maybe was
yeah.
telling us in advance that 2020 wasn't going to be such a great year?
All of the things that are happening now have been predicted through all the metaphysics, including numerology, that this would be the time of the great shift. So uh, things like disease and uh, the stock market, inflation, all the stuff we're experiencing, all the lack of honesty and the greed has all been foretold that this would be the time that it would happen, and it's been, I don't know if you've noticed this, but we've been shifting like
Hmm.
crazy, hopefully evolving because it's allowed us to, when we couldn't be together, we had to be alone. It forced many to be alone, and when you're alone, it's hard not to look inside yourself.
Right.
So I think it's part of our part of what's going on is being revealed in the numbers. Like I said, in the 7-year, and that was a 4-year, that would happen. Things in the physical would be more noticeable.
Gotcha. And I,
Mm-hmm.
um, I mentioned that this show was going to run 3/23/23. So just noticing, it's 3/2/3/2/3. Is there something significant about that? And is there anything like, is it coincidence that I accidentally booked the show on that date, or is it like meant to be? Like, how would I look at that? I'm just trying to determine like how in looking at numbers and noticing, a sequence like that, is there anything that would tell us?
Well, it'll be a 15/6 day, and the 6 represents love. So it'll be it's a good vibration to be to communicate with about such things.
Hmm.
People are more likely to be open-hearted to it. So I think it's a good frequency to bring something like numerology to people's.
Nice. Okay. All right. Well, we picked a good day then to do this.
Yeah, you did.
Oh,
Can't beat six. Can't beat love. Yeah, that's for
so
sure.
I'm looking at trends. I'm looking at, numbers like that. And is that the way to do this? Or like how does one, like, on a very basic level, practice numerology?
Well, first they have to figure out what each of the letters stand for, which number they like. An A is a 1, a B is a 2, a 3 is a C,
Mm-hmm.
etc. And then they've memorized that and add it to their names, and then they do their life path, which is based on their birth date, and they just could add the numbers straight across, or they could take each day. Like it's all about cycles and patterns, and that's what the numbers reveal. But you have to just learn the basics. It's very simple to learn. Most numerology books has how to do your own chart. Plus, it's free at the internet, so you could see how your what's vibrating around you, what frequencies are vibrating around you by knowing the meaning behind the numbers. And numbers tell a lot of things. So, like the 1 would be a good day to be really creative, very innovative, new ideas. You'll feel a lot of courage. It just, your will be in action,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll feel that vibration. Go, oh, that feels like a 1, and it is a 1 because it's around you and it's giving you that juice.
As far as like personal growth and self-improvement, and again, maybe you could share a story with one of your clients, but how can numerology help there?
I believe that when you know yourself, know thyself, and to thy own self be true, is how it's like Aristotle said, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. So when you know your numbers, you're really getting to know who you are at a very deep level. And that can only be beneficial, I feel.
Well, and that's the thing about this. I mean, we talked about skeptics earlier, and
Mm-hmm.
like people that maybe doubt this. But the thing is that they can't doubt is, well, okay, this is just another method of also looking at yourself and understanding
Mm-hmm.
yourself and listening to yourself
Yeah,
and trying to
yeah,
figure out like how you are, how you react to things, how like digging in and that kind of introspection like helps no matter what. Like whether you're a skeptic or not, all of these things,
yeah,
it's a great thing to do, and this is yet another way of giving you that ability to check that out.
right.
And
Mm-hmm.
at what point do people come to you to kind of like and what are they receiving when they come to you? Like what's that like?
Well, it depends. Most people walk away with a lot of faith in numerology because they see the validity of it after a reading. I don't think you'd really believe in it unless you had a good reading, and then you could see it play out in your life, and that would be evidence enough.
Gotcha. Now, can you when calculating kind of the life path forward, Are you sort of also like looking at that person and kind of what through the numbers what they've experienced in the past, like trying to, or is that more of a verbal thing that you're learning about their past?
Not a whole lot of detail, but the significant things, yes.
If you're like, let's get into like, relationships now. I was talking with a friend about one of my other shows, and they're like, "Oh, it's great because I'm figuring out like, you know, who I should be with because I'm listening to your show and all these different advice. It's causing me to, this deal of introspection, and like looking at myself. I'm like, okay, all right, well, so I figure I'll just go ahead and ask the question for her. Can numerology, um, help you find that partner, and know if somebody's compatible with you. Does it help with that?
Oh, totally helps with that because it really helps you understand your partner if you're having a reading together. Um, I've had good experience with relationships that were in trouble or people wanting to get together. And all my friends, if they meet a guy, I'm constantly doing numbers for them to find out if it's a good match or not. And generally they go, "You were absolutely right, Patricia, about this or that with that person." I said, "Well, if you don't mind it talking your head off all night long." It's
Well, now
not
that I
like
know you're
that.
right down the way, I'm going to send her your way. So just get a little advice from you.
Oh, yeah.
So,
So it can be fun too.
oh, I bet. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I would assume like your conversations are just a lot of fun. It's a lot of like, looking.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Now, do you
Uh-huh.
ever see where, using the numbers, do you see, something potentially, bad, like a pitfall, like something, maybe a
Oh,
tragic
yeah.
event coming because of the numbers?
That, but there's challenges of people that have taken on numbers that require a really narrow journey in a way,
Hmm.
but a lot of freedom in the end. Like, they go through the fires a little bit, but when they come out the other end, if they stayed as true to themselves as they could, usually get very rewarded for that. A lot of freedom and liberation of who they are and more joy and happiness into their lives. So there's nothing bad that you could say, but there's purifying challenges that can come and go. And some people are walking those today
Hmm.
that when I explain it to them, they usually cry and say, "That's exactly what I'm going through," because it can be harsh.
Hmm. And I didn't really ask you of the history of numerology and like where it originated. Like how was this discovered?
Well, I just take it back as it's ancient. It goes back to ancient cultures in Rome and Egypt and Greece and China, and it's tied to the Hebrew Kabbalah. And but I think Pythagoras really brought it to the forefront, and he lived in 560 AD. But it's he's the one that taught the relationship between man and the divine laws reflected in numbers. So he's responsible for the science of numbers as it is today and how we see it. So I use his version. There's other versions of numerology, but I like the Pythagoras one, and that's how it started. It's a science of numbers. Is a science of symbol and cycle and vibration, and when you start to understand that, you go into sacred geometry. Then it's connected to a lot of things. And I studied astrology and palmistry, face reading. I just wanted to find that red thread of truth that ran through all these studies because it would be the same,
Right.
and that made it real for me.
And if somebody wanted to go to a numerologist, is there anything that they should be looking for or even maybe watching out for just so they know that they're going to the right person?
Yeah, to feel if it's a match, and you know that right away. It's just like when you meet people, uh, that's how I do it because you'll feel relaxed and you say, "Oh, I don't learn from this person." So it's more about a match when you speak to them
Hmm. Hmm.
and feeling that, yeah, this person could teach me something. I'd like to connect with this.
Okay.
translator.
And if somebody wanted to, they're hearing you today, they may already feel that match. How do they reach out to you to get a hold of you if they wanted to schedule something?
Oh, well, I have a website at 33source.com, and there is all that you need to get in touch with me.
That's awesome. Patricia, thank you
Mhm.
so much for joining me today to help us learn a little bit more about numerology.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me again, and I enjoyed it, even though it was.
Yeah, well, this was your first
Thank you.
podcast ever, so congratulations.
Yes, ever. And you were wonderful. You really were great. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so much. Hey, and for those listening, thank you for listening and subscribing to Learning More. I encourage you and thank you for rating the podcast and sharing it with your friends. And as with any podcast that gives medical or legal opinion, the information is not meant to substitute professional advice. And I encourage you to consult a professional to discuss your exact needs. I knew I was going to mess up that at one point this season. And there you go. I did it. I got it out of the way. Hey, if you've got something that you would like to learn more about, just let me know. Head over to our website, learningmorepodcast.com. You can leave a suggestion for a future episode, and it just might happen. Like we could make that happen. And I love hearing ideas, and it helps me to even learn more about different things that are not on my mind. It's really cool. So please do head over to learningmorepodcast.com to do so. Again, thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. I'm Russ, and I look forward to learning more with you next time.